here. What's going on, guys? It's your guy here, Jeremy, Mr. International Man of Mystery. Welcome back to the Cali Culture Podcast. This is episode 3. We have a very good show for you today. In fact, we have a returning guest. She is a Colombian American author. We had her on the show, the very first show. She was on the very first show, Cali Culture Podcast. And it was an amazing show, very enlightening. And we have to bring her back. So without further ado, let's welcome Colombian American author, MJ Del Sol. Welcome back to the show, MJ.
Hello. I'm going to give myself a grand entrance. So I'm just going to play a little music because, that's how Caleñas.
Absolutely.
We got to have a little music in the background.
Yeah.
So thank you, for getting me back on the show. I know that we've been trying to coordinate. It's been a long time coming to come to do this. And, I know we are both passionate about a place called Cali, Colombia, en el Valle del Cauca. So, bienvenidos a todos. Gracias por estar aquí. Espero que les gusten, que le encanten, that you enjoy this little segment. You know what I mean? Just a little slice of Cali vibes.
Absolutely. And so for those of you that are listening, the good thing about this show and having MJ on the show is she is bilingual. So she can give you a little bit of a Spanish lesson and then educate you about the Cali culture as well. So we have a very good topic for you today. Now, we all know that there will not be a new school or a new generation without the older generation. And so today's topic, we want to talk about the dichotomy of the old generation of Cali versus the newer generation of Cali. In other words, how was Cali 20, 30, 40 years ago? We know Cali is an interesting city, is an interesting culture, but was it always like that? And so because MJ was born in Cali, she's Caleña, she's Colombian American, she has a perspective of the old generation of Cali, or I would say the initial generation of Cali that was very traditional and had maybe customs and things that we might not see, obviously me as being an expat, that we might not see currently in 2025. So before we get into that though, I want to bring on, if you haven't bought a copy of MJ's book, you definitely should. You absolutely should. It is December. We're 2 weeks away from Christmas. This is the perfect Christmas gift right here.
This is me in my passport picture going to America, not knowing that I was going to stay.
Yes.
So that's how the cookie crumbled.
And the good thing about this book, I've read this book and I probably will read it a couple of times before it's over. But the interesting thing about this book is if you want to understand how the differences, the complications of assimilating to a new culture, this book tells you exactly how complex it could be, how difficult it could be to go to a completely different culture, not understanding the cultures and the customs and even the language, and having to assimilate from one culture to the next. It's a lot harder than you think. And so if you buy this book, I'm telling you, it really will enlighten your eyes and your understanding of the whole assimilation process. I would encourage everyone to listen to our first podcast. We had MJ really breaking down the assimilation process. It's very enlightening. So go buy this book. It's on Amazon. I think MJ is on
Amazon.
What else is on Amazon? Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, go order it on Amazon and get a copy for your mom, your brother, your sister. It's a great Christmas gift. Okay, so let's get into the topic. So MJ, I would like to step into time. Let's get in the time machine here and let's go back to Cali, Colombia. like 20 or 30 years ago. In fact, I know you're an 80s baby like myself. So let's go back to Cali, say 30 years ago. So actually, let's go back to Cali 35 years ago. And
I gotta do math in my head. Hold on. What year are we talking about? Because sometimes 30 years feels like it was the 70s, but that's really not 30 years ago.
right.
Let me
Yeah.
just talk to you about, okay, so the assimilation process happens all the time. Listen, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna like skim the surface. We're gonna go deep if this is what we do here. So assimilation, we're always assimilating. We go into a restaurant or someplace and it has a certain cuisine or a certain culture, and we acculturate at that moment in time, right? So you're acculturating to Cali culture. I had to acculturate to American culture. But sometimes I have to acculturate to Colombian culture too as I continue to go back and as I continue to, as culture evolves, right?
Mhm.
So I grew up in the 70s, not the 80s. I'm dating myself. And so the 70s was delicious. I find it to be a delicious because I don't think that the let's say what people know Colombia to be about at that time, the drug thing was starting to like rev up, but wasn't really there. So we still had that bit of the old, school and a little bit of, um, traditional, as you said. Sundays were very particular. Like there was a rhythm to every day. It's like mornings were hectic, but then afternoons were kind of sleepy. And then after, like around 5 p.m. would get a little bit more hectic, but like 9 p.m., the nightlife wasn't as vibrant. Right now, there's like all sorts of miraderos, there's, rooftops, there's this, there's that, there's the boulevard. It's a different culture today, right? But at
Mhm.
that time, we didn't have that many options. Even 20 years ago, we didn't have as many options as we have today. So it
Hmm.
was very traditional. It was very like it was very predictable in essence, right? Sundays would feel like Sundays, would feel very like it would be like quiet. It would be like nothing. And when I came to America, that was very jarring for me because I really appreciated that. Like I think
Mhm.
when you're little, you are who you are through and through. And I need like a lot of like quiet and downtime. So Sundays were actually my favorite days. And those are the days that we would go to La Piscina, or we would go to El Kilómetro, or we would do something in as a family as much as we could when we could.
Mhm.
And you felt that energy of the differences, right? You don't really feel that as much. I mean, you think maybe a little bit, you do a little bit, but not as much. Because then now Sundays is like in Cali, is a day that you go up. All the athletes, all the cyclists go up to this, and like all the people are running, and it's a very physical kind of day. But it's not a quiet day. It's not like a Sabbath. It's definitely not treated like a Sabbath. But back in the day, it felt like that. It felt like a day of releasing. Obviously, back then we didn't have telephones in the way that we have now. We had your home line, and we didn't have, we had like two channels. So it really catered to a different environment, right? So that is definitely a dichotomy of today and the yesteryear. And I hold that dear. I know that we were talking about Granada. Granada is a neighborhood in the north that is very vibrant. La Zona Rosa, that's
Mhm.
like lots of restaurants bustling. Growing up, Granada was not that. Granada was where my aunt lived. And we had to, and she wasn't, and she lived like in a space where it was like very unique. And that's what Granada meant to me. Granada meant where my auntie lived and where I would spend like
Mhm.
a lot of my time on the weekends or whatever. But to you guys, to modern day is the place where you want to go eat well, or, have a good time, right?
Well, yeah, and then all of the bars and the discotheques and nightclubs and rooftop bars. I feel like Granada now is like the hub for tourists. It's not the tourist hub, but it is where all the tourists go to have a good time, to go dance, to go to rooftop bars, really nice restaurants. So that is amazing that, say 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was really more relaxing. It was more,
Super
it was, it was,
relaxed.
it was less nightlife there.
A lot less, like I
Hmm.
wouldn't say like 80% less.
Wow.
So, but yeah, you take certain neighborhoods. It's happened to New York, happened to Miami, like certain neighborhoods that were nothing and they made it into something, right? Like Wynwood in
Right.
Miami, that was just warehouses and now it's just a hub of nightlife.
Hmm.
So the gentrification of sorts or the globalization of sorts, I've seen it happen before my eyes, and I'm not mad. I mean, listen, this is what happens over time. So
Right.
if people can capitalize, but yeah, it definitely now has a different energy, right? Like
Hmm.
it creates for a different environment, but still all good. I mean, it's the way of the world now. We wanna Cali, I'm just like super like impressed and shocked the way to see, like, let's say last night Carlos Vives was in La
Yeah.
Boulevard,
Right.
hanging out because Shakira was hanging out, well, she was doing the concert, but she was also hanging out and being like, Cali's Cali, because Cali
Hmm.
has that energy. It's a vibrancy that I pray never goes away. And I pray that, that no matter how much acculturation happens or different people come together, that they just expand it and not take away from it. Because sometimes that also can
Right.
happen.
Oh, absolutely. Tell me about December. Because December is a big month in Colombia in general. How significant was December for Caleños? Like for the locals, was December such a big deal like it is now?
Always, always December. I mean, it's a running joke, right? Desde septiembre. December, so like in September, you already smell December. Why?
Right.
It's a time where people slow down. Again, modern day, a lot of people are not slowing down. They're revving up maybe more.
Right.
But back in the day, it was a time that you knew that you were going to get together with all the cousins. You knew that you were going to do
Hmm.
El Dia de las Velitas. You knew that you were going to do just natilla, that you would have all your favorite dishes, that you would come together. Like that's really the essence
Hmm.
behind it, that you would come together, that you would
Yeah.
slow down, that you would make a stop. And like maybe the cousin from Medellin is going to come and stay with us for 3 weeks, or maybe
Hmm.
it wouldn't really go the other way around for us. But it was always a time where someone would come visit, where we would come together with the cousins and the aunties and everybody. And like here is very traditional for Thanksgiving, and it's a one day. But in Colombia and for Colombians, it really like extends for like several weeks, right? So Cali in particular is even maybe like a little bit more top. I'm gonna say top notch, but a little bit more like festive because of La Feria. So we're
Hmm.
doing all the family stuff. We're, doing all the villancicos and las novenas, which is, talking about Jesus and his arrival.
Hmm.
And then comes La Feria, right? So this is for the adults mostly, even though they have activities for the children, and they have classic car, an event where they where they show classic cars, like a whole festival of classic cars, and that's what my brother does. And so in Cali, that was something that we definitely would look at and participate. There's all the dance schools come together, and so it's
Hmm.
beautiful because these kids get to show off their skills, everything that they've worked so hard for during the year, not just kids, but adults as well. And like
Hmm.
just the essence of Cali comes alive. And it's like one big
Right.
firework of dance and people and energy. And it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. It's a time where, I mean, if you're an adult, then you do the nightlife thing. If you want to do the
Hmm.
nightlife thing, you don't have to, because you get so much salsa throughout the day that if that's not what you do, that's fine. But you
Right.
can't do that, right? You can do that. And I also want to talk about the dichotomy in essence, as far as like, people think that they have to be A, dancers, or B, salsa lovers, or C, nightlife people to go to Cali, but that is not accurate. You know what I mean? Like there's
Hmm.
still a lot of family things to do. There's a lot of,
Right.
the zoo is one of the best zoos. There's a lot of
Yeah.
rivers. There's a lot of going up the mountains, hiking. So I
Hmm.
think a lot of people think, well, I'm not a partier. I'm not a nightlife person. There's a lot of, we're a very religious community, actually.
Hmm.
So, I go to Cali and I go to church there. I go to my church here has a church there. So I go to the church
Hmm.
there. There's a lot of missions that happen, a lot of missions work that happens because there's a lot
Hmm.
of displaced children, a lot of orphanages and foster homes
Hmm.
and stuff. So there's so many things that you can do in Cali besides party. But I mean, if you like to party, you like to party. And what's not nothing wrong with that.
If you like,
And it's not
if you like
even
the party,
party.
it's definitely there for you.
Yeah, I remember one time, and I don't know if I mentioned this when I in the other interview, but I was coming. I had to go to Pereira to go get my teeth done, even though there's so many whatever, right? Like we knew this dentist in Pereira, so I took a day trip there on a like a jitney with my little like with my little tooth in my back. And I went to Pereira and I spent the day there, and I came back and I'm exhausted. And then I'm passing by like a liquor store, and my cousin is over there dancing, like, because you just take your liquor that you bought and you sit outside and you take the beer, whatever, and you hang out and they play salsa. And so you
Right.
dance. No big deal, right? Super chill.
Mhm.
And I'm looking, she was like, "Come here, cousin." And like, so it's just, you don't have to go clubbing. You could just, if you enjoy
Right.
salsa, if you enjoy good vibes, it's there for you. It's like, it's there. But there's also a lot of other things. Like if you want to go to, like New Year's Mass is there. Like if you want to go
Mhm.
help children that are in orphanages, in essence, it's
Mhm.
there. If you want to do missions work, it's there. If you want to work with the impoverished community, it's there. So
Mhm.
Cali is multifaceted, and that's why I talk about the dichotomy, right? It's not just
Right.
like it's not just concrete. It's lush. It's not just lush. It's nature driven. It's not just that. It's this. It's like it's very very diverse. Even though it sounds like it's one sided. Because my friend said, "Oh, so what do you guys do? Just party all the time?" Like I'm like, well, that's in the blood. That's in the blood.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So one of the things that I notice, that's what I love about the nightlife is you don't have to go to a bar or a club to dance. People actually dance right on the street. You're exactly right in that even to this day, I've noticed you can go to a liquor store and people are out dancing outside the liquor store. That you just don't see that in most cultures, MJ. I think even to this day, to me, that is interesting as um, you don't have to go out. You can just literally find a liquor store. You can find a small grocery store. In
And
fact, I went to a grocery store. I can't remember the name of it, but it was near Smart Fit Gym, and it was actually in the grocery store. There was a band. There's a live band playing music in the grocery store. Like you just
I've
don't see that around. I've been all over the world. You just don't see that
we
as prevalent as I do in Cali.
we love music to empower, and I don't realize, I was acculturated into the American culture, and it even sounds weird to me when you say she's Colombian American. I'm like, I guess I am. I guess I am Colombian American. I really am. But my essence is, Cali through and through, and I don't realize how much of it comes out. And I remember one time I was
Yeah.
at a restaurant, and I was looking, I was doing takeout, and they had like a thing where you take out whatever it is that you want to drink, right? So I
Mhm.
was in front of it and I was thinking, and I didn't realize, like, I was in my head, I had music and I was dancing, but there was no music playing. And I was just dancing, thinking about what is it that I was going to drink. And the person I was with was like, you really like, what are you dancing to? And I'm like, there's a whole like a concert going on in my head. That is definitely who we are, like
Yeah.
as a nature. So I can be anywhere, and I just start like in my head. I just start dancing because it's like it's just a nature of who we are. And I remember one of my
Yeah.
friends said, you guys walk like you're dancing, like you guys cook like you're dancing. Like there's an energy behind who we are.
Hmm.
That's very much that. And not every and that's okay. Another dichotomy, not
Hmm.
every caleño knows how to dance like ballroom, or not every caleño knows how to dance, period. But we do feel the music. But you know what I mean? Like not every like I'm definitely not like, I mean, if you take me out, I can handle it. But I'm definitely not, because I haven't taken like proper classes or whatever. But
Yeah.
as far as feeling it, 1000, and
Hmm.
I think that's also one of the dichotomies, right? Like we can love music also, not just salsa, like we love music. So
Right.
there's a lot of classic rock lovers in Colombia, in
Hmm.
Cali in particular. My
Yep.
brother's one of them. He sends me like Leonard Skinner, and I'm like, but I'm not that person. Like I can appreciate it, but like that's not my vibe, you know what I mean? But if I'm going to go to a bar and they play Spanish rock, I'm going to sing at the top of my lung, as
Hmm.
well to the songs that I know, because that's how we express it. And so
Right.
there's that dichotomy, right? Like, oh, I like salsa, but I'm not in love with salsa. Well, guess what? There's like a lot of classic rock lovers, a lot of Spanish
Hmm.
rock lovers, a lot of like American music lovers. So yeah, so
You're
you're
right.
gonna find that too.
You're exactly right. Right by my apartment in El Peon, there's a brewery, Kalima Brewery. Shout out to Kalima Brewery. But they have a lot of classic rock bands and just more punk rock bands lately that come there and perform, and they're actually pretty good too. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes they perform in English, sometimes they perform in Spanish, and I was like, this is pretty good. It's like I could be in America in LA somewhere, listen to a band of the same quality, So yeah, you're right. The love of music is definitely there in Cali. In fact, there's a love for jazz in
That
Cali.
it's a love for music, period.
Yeah,
Like you just have that ear. We're
right.
not like tone deaf or anything like that. We definitely have that ear, and we love what sounds musical, what sounds and a lot of the heavyweights
Mhm.
loved going to Cali because they could feel that the people of Cali had that appreciation. Now,
Right.
also, I want to say, like the LGBT community, I think that some people think like, would I be, part of, would I be welcome? Very much so. That
Hmm.
community is huge there too.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know where the hangouts are, but they're there. They're definitely
Hmm.
there. So
Right.
it has a little bit for everybody. If you're bougie, there's something for you. If you're super down to earth, there's something for you. Obviously, you have to know where to go. Even for me, I mean, I have to, like, my brother, like, that I go visit all the time. He still lives in Cali. As I would told you before, like, I may be here, but my whole extended family is there.
Right.
So including my brother, one of my brothers. So yeah. So for me, Cali is not just a place that I was born and that I'm connected to on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about, and you touched on this a little bit, but I want to dive deeper into it. Family and community. So on a weekly basis, and you talked about Sunday in particular, but on a weekly basis, how is the family structure? In other words, are you sitting at home? Are you having dinner and you're talking as a family on a day to day basis, or is it more like in America, take out and if we can't talk, we can't talk, we can't. How was that? How was that interaction?
No, I would say one of the things that I love about Colombian culture is that we do come together for food, right? We do come together for
Hmm.
dinners and stuff like that, lunches. That's super important. And there's
Hmm.
normally usually someone that outside of the family that comes in and cooks, or that's not too expensive and stuff like that. So it gives way um, for just communication without having to fuss too much, where we're just sort of sitting. I know with my brother and I, when I stayed at extended times with him, that was the time that we looked forward to, just connecting. How was your day? What's going on? Whatever. I
Hmm.
think though caleños in general don't go deep, like, you know what I mean, like we could talk about the day, but we're not going to talk about maybe some harsh stuff. And I think that that's something where Americans are like much more open to talking about, like, who hurt you and why and how, what do we do about it?
Hmm.
Caleños are not like that. Colombians overall are not like that as a whole. And I think that's a missing piece that could really, but what's different there is that you often have the grandmother, the uncle that lives with you, or the auntie that lives with you, or whatever. Like there's always like sort of an extended family feel to it, where here it's like there's no such thing. I mean, not there's no such thing, but the nursing home for your parents is not really where it's at. Like we're not doing that.
Right.
Like we are,
Yeah.
and so if it's like several people living in a household and it's not looked upon necessarily
Hmm.
negatively, if you live with your mom and your uncle, or your mom and your brothers, and like that is a family unit. There, here it'd be like, what's wrong with you, why don't you have your own place? And
Right.
there it's like, how beautiful, we're here together. It really
Right.
is like that, for the most part.
So family is very important, and community is very important. Um, from from the standpoint of like when you go to school, like can you remember being in school and having a lot of friends within the community, or was it just you go to school, you had your friends at school, and then you go home, and then that's it? You don't talk to them on the weekends, you don't see them on the weekends. Was there a lot of interaction among the community and even at school?
I mean, for me, I was different. I'm one of five, and I'm the last one of five. So I was happy to go home and hang out with my siblings. Honestly, it was always entertaining. It was always crazy. It was never a dull moment, and I wanted to
Mhm.
be like, front row into all the shenanigans that they got into, right? Because they were older than me, so they were like early teens, and so we already know what happens. But that was just wild. Like it was having big families as it was a norm, and it was just wild. Like they would steal my dad's car, and and my sister would take, I talk about this in the book. Like one time, a dog, my brother got a stray dog or something, and he was like,
Mhm.
don't go around the dog. So what do? I go around the dog, so the dog bites me like right in the face,
Mhm.
like right in. And so they were like, tell my sister to take me to go, taking me to doctor. And so she was like, well, I'm gonna have to borrow, John's motorbike, right? And I'm like, so now I'm in the back of a motorbike with my sister with a thing in my head because I got bit by a dog. And she's like, I think you're good. I don't think you need to go to the doctor. And so instead, she took me to her boyfriend's house, and they took me to go get ice cream. And I was
Nice.
happy as a clam. I'm like, I'm eating ice cream and whatever. So it was just always something going on. So
Yeah.
that was the nature of. So I didn't really hang out with a lot of friends on the weekends because had my hands full with what was happening in my household. But yeah, like there's always like the friend that comes over and always eats at the house, or
Mhm.
it's always extended family. Like when I send stuff to Colombia, I send it sometimes to friends of friends, like my brother's friends, or the lady that has been or has been cooking and cleaning for my cousin forever and ever. Like, she
Mhm.
gets a gift too, like that kind of stuff. We're
So
givers. We tend to be
did
givers.
yeah, that's why I definitely 100% I could validate that even to this day. I remember one of my first trips to Cali. Uh, Actually, no, I'm sorry, my second trip to Cali. My brother joined me on this trip, and we were walking. We said, we're not gonna get Uber, we're gonna walk. And this gentleman stopped and he's like, "Hey, do you need a ride? Are you okay?" We're good. We're just walking, and that's it. Again, it took me off guard a little bit because I'm not used to that. I'm not
Yeah.
used to that
Yeah.
level of hospitality.
Yeah.
Just amazing. But I did want to touch on and ask, when you were a little girl, did you feel safe with just walking the street? Was your parents okay with you just walking to a friend's house or walking to get ice cream or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah. I
That was
mean, I wouldn't
totally
go from
normal.
neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood. I would go neighborhood with my brother because,
Hmm.
like, walking in Cali is a thing.
Hmm.
You can walk like far, like especially I grew up in el norte. So, we were in Bipasa, we were in Prado del Norte, we were by La
Mhm.
Cesta, we were in Centenario, we were in Granada. So all that territory was like we could go walk, like we would just
Right.
walk.
Right.
Um so yeah, walking was a thing. Obviously, me by myself as a little girl, I didn't think anywhere is not it's not the right thing to do. But sometimes when my brother would want to go hang out with his friends, and my school was in Bipasa, and I was living in Prado del Norte, I would walk by myself,
Hmm.
and not feel like like I never felt like, oh, is someone to come get me. But I don't know what modern day would look like, right? I feel like there's a
Right.
different energy now. So I don't know. I wouldn't let my my kid do that. But my mom did let, because we were so many of us, like there was five of us. So she was just
Mhm.
like, have somebody take care of somebody and then figure it out. So we would go bike riding, all that stuff.
Wow, that is interesting. That used to be a part of the culture in America, especially in the
Yes.
South. That hey, you need to go to the store, go walk, take a
Yeah.
jog, go walk, and walk with your brother, and go get it and come back. Obviously, can't do that now, but that definitely was a staple in American culture. Now, last but not least, I want to talk about food, the great food in Cali, Colombia. How important is food? I think I know the answer to this question now, having been being an
Man.
expat in Cali. But how important is good homemade food in Cali?
See, I'm glad you mentioned where you come from because I think soul food is soul food, right? So soul food looks
Hmm.
one way to you guys, soul food looks one way to us. So for
Hmm.
me, I don't gravitate towards sweets or cereals or I think that's very American vibes or pancakes. I want soul food. Soul food for me is un
Hmm.
sancocho. Soul food for me is una arepa. Soul food for
Yeah.
me is something different. So that I feel like modern day people, not just women, but people are not cooking in the way that the matriarchs used to cook, right?
Hmm.
And those people are maybe at a certain age of their lives that they're not even cooking anymore, so we cannot let that's one of the things I'm like, oh my god, I need to learn to cook in the way I do, but not to the extent that I would want to cook in the way that, because even my mom wasn't like, she always had like housekeepers and stuff, but
Hmm.
so she didn't really like perfect her matriarch caleña or Valle del Cauca or Colombian flavors. But una
Yeah.
sopa for me with cilantro and all the spices and stuff like that, that to me is heaven. Yeah, that to me is heaven. Like I want un sancocho. I don't want to eat, just anything. Spaghetti's not my it's not my soul food. So for
Right.
me, yeah. So for me, that is important. Like frituras are not my go-to. Like, yes, I will eat an empanada. Frituras is fried food, so I would eat an
Hmm.
empanada, but I am not gonna eat like un buñuelo, una empanada, it's like una papa rellena. Like I'm not gonna eat all that. But
Right.
a good papa rellena though, like a good stuffed potato.
Hmm.
Un buen tamal. This is the time of the year where tamales and all that stuff is just so yummy.
Yeah.
So I would highly encourage, and I know that you are doing this, where you're bringing people together in Cali to do a
Hmm.
cooking class. I know you talked about this. And
Yeah.
Petronio, the time in August where the Afro-Colombian culture comes together, that's a
Yeah.
great time to do
Absolutely.
that, to learn that essence. Because Colombia is very diversified. So people think that
Hmm.
the way they cook in Cartagena is the way they cook in Cali, and that's not accurate. The way
Right.
they cook in Bogota is not the way they cook in Medellin. Every
Yeah.
region has its thing. And Cali has a lot of Afro Colombian culture. And that's one
Hmm.
thing that people don't know. We're very close to kin with Afro-Colombian culture. So
Right.
mestizos, any shade that you're in as a caleño, you're caleño, and you come together. And a lot of people from
Hmm.
El Choco and a lot of people from the Pacific area coast has migrated over time. And so we're one. Like we don't see that difference. We don't
Right.
oftentimes. I mean, obviously you have your whack people that see that difference, but for the most part, no,
Yeah.
for the most part, it's like we're one. It's one love. It's vibes.
As it should be.
Mhm.
The Pacific food is so good. I mean, I would definitely say that it resembles soul food in America because the spices definitely more spices, and it's just good authentic food, heavy food too. Like you eat a plate and then you're full. Like you really don't even need, if you eat a plate for lunch, you don't need to eat a big dinner
Yeah.
because it's just really heavy, good
And
food.
I think that people are like, oh, you don't eat dinner. I'm like, I don't eat dinner. I think that's where it comes from because in
Hmm.
Colombia, that's how we roll. We
Hmm.
have a great breakfast, a nice, yummy lunch, and then we just
Hmm.
una merienda for dinner and we're good. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So food is very significant in the culture. Um, and I tell you, even to this day, I will say this though, you have the best of both worlds in Cali. Even to this day, you can go to a really high end restaurant that the food is great, but then you can go to a small little hole in the wall restaurant and the food is amazing. And so you get the best of both worlds. You can have like the nice dish on the nice plate with the decorations, and then you can have just the old school like styrofoam plate, and it's like here, and it's the best food you've ever tasted. You know,
Best. It's the best. Those are my
and that
go-to
is what I
actually.
want to keep.
Uh-huh.
We have to keep that.
We
MJ,
have
and
to keep them
even me as an
alive.
expat, we need to keep that. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to. I'm not. Look, I live in Miami. I lived in New York. Like I had access. I have access, and have had access. I work in Brickell. Like Brickell is one of the fanciest. I I'm next to Boca. Like I'm around like really high city environments. But that's not my
Yeah.
go-to.
Yeah.
My go-to is always like the lady that sometimes helps me clean the house. She's from Cali. She's a vibe. Like
Mhm.
I play. This is fun. I play salsa all the time. The whole 8 hours that she's here, and we were and then she's barefoot, and we play salsa, and she cooks, and we just like we're like home. Like, and
Yeah.
she's just someone that helps me, but I bring we celebrate the culture as we're together.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that so much. Like I love to, I want to learn from her how to cook a certain
Mhm.
way, and I want to, if she opens up a little just thing going on, that I'm going to support her. So that's the vibe, is that to support these people. Like yes, the rooftop is
Mhm.
vibes, and yes, you get the photo op, and yes, you get to post on Instagram, and yes, you do, all the things, and you get to wear your fun clothes. Absolutely, there's no hate there.
Right.
However, the little mom and pop,
Mhm.
that's who we need to help out and keep alive, because there's so much richness there.
Absolutely. Last but not least, and this just kind of ties into what we're already talking about, but how do we maintain the culture? I think it's sort of a twofold thing. Increase a little bit of tourism to a point where you can bring economy more money to the economy in Cali, but at the same time not get to a point where it's Medellin or Bogota where it's just too big and you lose some of the culture. And the reason why I bring this up is I get asked this all the time from locals. It's not really asked; it's more of a statement. Like, hey, don't promote Cali so much to a point where you have too many tourists coming in, and then it impacts the culture. What is your feeling on that?
I think the tourists can come in. I think it's important for the tourists to come in, not only for them to learn the culture, but for the economy of the city.
Right.
But it's to respect the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's to not want to do things your way. There's a certain order that we keep as
Mm-hmm.
Caleños. There's a certain etiquette that we keep as Caleños. There's a certain standard that we have. There's a certain sensibility that we have. And so,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to opposing, and bullying your way into a place or
Right.
into a situation or into a vibe, you acquiesce to it, and you learn from it. You scope it out, and you see, yeah. I remember I had a friend that used to, well, actually, he was a boyfriend that used to call my house, and he used to, when I was here in the States, and he used to be, obviously, because I was little over there, and he used to be like, "Can I speak to Mercedes? That's my name. Can I speak to Mercedes?" And my mom was like, "He is not the one." In Colombia, when you call somebody and you're like, "Buenas noches, señora," whatever her name, you first greet them, the parent, and you have a whole conversation and you ask about their day. You're not
Okay.
just like, "Can I speak to?"
Right.
Like, what is that? That is so not the culture. That is so
Right.
not the culture. You respect the elderly in a way that's perhaps doesn't even happen here. Buenas
Right.
noches. ¿Cómo le va? How are you doing? How's your day? How can I help you? What can I bring? You don't show up
Mm-hmm.
empty-handed. You don't.
Right.
It's just an etiquette that Americans don't really have.
Right.
You say please and thank you as a way of
Mm-hmm.
always, like, almost too much. You know what I mean? Like it could be like too
Right.
much for some people, but that's the
Mm-hmm.
culture. So you go into the culture, not not proposing your ways, but really
Mm-hmm.
uh, acclimating and acculturating to what is, and that's the way we can keep it
Absolutely.
alive. That's the way we can keep it alive.
Absolutely. We definitely got to emphasize this. We unfortunately we never have enough time, MJ. We're gonna have to do it. We just have to have you on the show once again.
We'll do it
Because I
again. We'll do it
definitely
again.
want to follow up on this as far as how to respect the culture. I mean, you've actually given me some insight in that, and I know this helps with the viewers a lot, especially American and Canadian viewers. But we definitely need to follow up on how do you respect the culture? How do you assimilate as an American that knows nothing about Colombian culture, particularly Cali culture? How do you slowly but surely assimilate yourself to at the point where you are considered what I call a good tourist, a good traveler.
I think for
So we
beginning, I know we're going to expand on that the next time, but for
yeah.
beginning, just humbling yourself. You know what I mean? Just humbling
Mm,
yourself to say, like, okay, this is who I am, this is where I come from, but that's not where I'm going. And that's
right,
not, how I want to show up per se. I want to show up
right.
in a way that is, important to them, that honors that culture. So, yeah, we'll close it out
Absolutely.
here. Thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
yeah, no, no. Thank you for joining again. And before we leave, though, I want to emphasize: if you haven't bought a Christmas gift yet for a family or loved one or friend, go get this book. It's on Amazon. Miseducation of Acculturation is a great book, a great Christmas gift, and you're going to learn a lot. So, MJ, thanks again for coming on the
Thank you.
show.
Thank you for the plug.
This is the third show. Obviously, I hope you come back and we'll talk a little bit
Yeah,
more.
we'll
There's
do it.
always a lot to talk about in regards to
And
Cali.
one last thing,
Sure.
just because, sometimes like, and think about love, right? Like, just if you've been with someone for 10 years or you were with someone for 10 years, like, time doesn't necessarily equate the level of love or passion or whatever. That's
Hmm.
how I feel about Colombia. Like, no one will be like, oh, you haven't lived there in so long. Listen, the love is so strong and it's so vivid and it's so real. It is an unforgettable kind of love that I have for that place, and so that's why it makes me the right person to talk to. Like, oh, but she didn't live there
Absolutely.
for so long, or she doesn't live there now, or she doesn't go regularly, or whatever. That's not the measure. That's not the measure in which we can say, this person is the right person or not the right person. So yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, absolutely. That yeah, you have a best of both world perspective that you live in both cultures. So for a viewer that's local, you can really relate to that viewer that hey, I lived the Cali culture, and I still live it. I haven't. My culture has not left me just because I live in a different country.
No,
And then
and the same thing for.
also,
Mhm.
mhm,
No, the same
yeah,
thing for
that's
you.
also as an
Like,
expat too. As an expat
exactly
in
the same.
another country that you've assimilated.
Well, also for you, it's like, well, who are you, Jeremy, to bring Cali culture into highlight or into scope, And I'm
Right,
like, because I feel it in a way that, and not only do I feel it in a certain way, but I'm doing something about it. And that's what makes
right.
you that person. So
Well, it's
kudos.
just too. It goes back to what you were saying about being humble and understanding someone's culture. There's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of content creators that have a lot of negative things to say about not just Cali, just Colombia in general,
Yeah.
or they are taking some stereotypes and exploiting them. And that's what I will never ever do. Is I want to show the true positive, uh, authentic culture of Cali, and I want to show that to the world because Cali does get a bad reputation.
And the
Uh,
reality is that not everything's positive,
that's true.
and forget content creators.
Yeah.
There's some people that are natives like myself that have a lot of not positive things to say about it, and we can
Right.
talk about that another time. But
Right.
so it's like, look, you feel a certain vibration towards the space,
Hmm.
and I'm happy that you felt it so much so that you felt that you needed to create a whole movement around
Thank
it.
you.
Absolutely,
Appreciate that.
I
I
felt
appreciate the support. You're
absolutely.
one of my number one supporters, and it just motivates me to
and
continue
and, and
build
vice
this
versa.
platform.
It because mind what is it, like-minded people want to come
Like
together
minded.
because, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And for me too, like, my book surrounds around the fact that I came from this place, etc.
Hmm.
And it speaks to the heart of who I am. So kudos to you, keep going.
Thank you.
Again, it's not the length of time that makes
Right.
someone the right person to advocate for that. It's
Hmm.
the intensity that one feels, in the just the magnitude of what one feels. So
Right.
you feel it, go with it, and you're going. And
Right.
so for me, what I would like to see you happen is to be that point person. Like, hey, I
Hmm.
want to go to Cali and I want to learn how to cook from like a matriarch from the Pacific, and I want to go to Cali
Yes.
and I want to go to Rio Pance and I want to go
Right.
this and that, and like, can you
Hmm.
help me? So
Yes.
that's the
Yeah.
vibe.
No, absolutely. And that's what I want to continue to do. There's so much. Look, I've just skimmed the surface of learning about Cali culture. And that's why I love talking to you, MJ, and a lot of other locals
Hmm.
within Cali is every time I talk to someone, I learn just a little bit more. And it just broadened my horizons. Like, I didn't even know that, even like what you were saying about, greeting somebody on the phone. I knew that, but I didn't know it, and the reason why I said I do know that because growing up in the South in the United
That's
States, that's
similar.
what we do.
Yeah.
We talk to the parent first before we want to talk to a
You
young lady.
cannot. What? You bypass the parent. You're X'd out. You are not the
Right,
one.
right,
You
exactly. In
just hung
particular, her
yourself.
dad. Like talk to her mom, but her dad has to respect you. And so, but I would love to continue, but this is going to definitely be a continuation. Maybe we do it at the beginning of the year. We can do another
The
episode, and
scheduling.
we
We'll
can
figure
talk
out the
about.
scheduling. We'll figure out the scheduling.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. But again, I want to thank you, and for all the viewers, remember Cali is Cali. Remember what we said today in regards to humbling yourself, understanding the culture. Don't come with preconceived notions or ideas. Assimilate, understand the culture, and you're going to have a great time in Cali. Remember, Cali is Cali.
Lo
See
demás
you the
es
next time.
Loma.
Loma. See you
Enjoy.
the
Have a
next
good
time.
one. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.